Over the last several decades of NFL postseason play, there is one thing we know. Not all playoff teams are built equally. Throughout this video, you'll find squads that overcame major flaws, some that rallied late in the season, and plenty that were just downright lucky. These are the worst teams to make the NFL playoffs. We are kicking it off with the 2010 Seahawks, who had a new leader at the helm.
We need it to be hard. We need to be gritting all the way through the end of it, fighting and clawing and scratching to get you wins. That means so much to us because you believe, you know, you can feel it in your heart that, of course we can.
Pete Carroll took USC to the mountaintop, and his goal in Seattle was the same, though year one was a major struggle. The Seahawks lost 9 games in 2010 by an average of 21 points per contest. Think about that. Carroll's squad ranked 23rd in scoring offense, 25th in scoring defense, and had the worst point differential of any playoff team ever. Yet even with all of that, they won a putrid NFC West at 7-9 and hosted the defending champion Saints in the wild card. And that's when their midseason trade for Marshawn Lynch paid off.
Crowd silent now, as opposed to when the Saints have the ball. Oh, look at this run! What a run! Marshawn Lynch, still on his feet, has blockers now. He's dancing his way for the touchdown.
Oh my word! He must have knocked 5 guys down on the way to the end zone. The beast is alive and well.
In a massive upset, the Seahawks took down New Orleans before falling to the Bears in the divisional round. Exactly 10 years later, another 7-9 squad snuck into the dance. The bizarre COVID season of 2020 saw the Washington football team win the NFC East with the 25th best scoring offense in the league. Alex Smith, Dwayne Haskins, Kyle Allen, and Taylor Heineke all started games at quarterback. The other side of the ball was a different story, though.
Here's Roethlisberger coming near side, tipped in the air, and it's intercepted by Washington. John Bostic picked it out of the air.
Washington ranked 4th in scoring defense and 2nd in yards allowed. They were the first team in NFL history to start 2-7 and make the playoffs. A crucial 4-game win streak saw Ron Rivera's team knock off the 11-0 Steelers en route to capturing a division title, but their season came to an end against the eventual Super Bowl champs in the wild card. Speaking of Tampa, the 2022 Bucs limped into the postseason at 8-9 in the GOAT's final campaign. Brady went out slinging it, an NFL single-season record for pass attempts and completions. Unfortunately, any semblance of a run game was absent, as Tampa ranked dead last in rushing yards.
Fournette in the backfield, he is brought down.
6 of Tampa's 8 wins that year came by 1 score. The walls closed in quickly with 4 double-digit losses in their final 6 games. That included a 17-point defeat against Dallas at home in the wild card round. Another NFC South team took home the division crown with a losing record back in 2014. Cam Newton and the Panthers entered December with 3 wins. 6 of their 8 losses came by at least 18 points, but somehow they rallied. 3 straight victories before a win-and-in Week 17 showdown in Atlanta.
To extend the drive, Ryan goes deep, and he's picked up. Intercepted by Trey Boston. Boston still going at the 20, and he has the second return for a touchdown of the game for the Carolina Panthers defense.
The Panthers made it at 7-8-1 and then defended home turf against Arizona in the wild card. Carolina averaged nearly 200 rushing yards in that 5-game win streak. Sadly, their season came to a bitter end in the divisional round against Seattle. To call the 2011 Broncos season miraculous would be an understatement. Kyle Orton started the first 5 games at quarterback before Tim Tebow took the reins and provided us with the most improbable stretch of wins, perhaps in NFL history.
Jets show blitz, they're going to bring it. Tebow trying to run around the corner. Tebow's got a first down and more. He might score. Touchdown!
Tebow led this group to 6 straight victories, most of which came in the final seconds. In fact, 7 of Denver's 8 wins in 2011 came by 1 score. Only those 2010 Seahawks had a worse point differential. Heading into the postseason, the Broncos lost their last 3, entering the wild card against Pittsburgh as massive home underdogs, and that's where Tebow mania peaked.
The Broncos have been in 3 overtime games this year. They won them all. Got him at the 40. It's Thomas at the 50. Skipper got him free to the 30, to the 20. Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on to New England. They win it on the first play of overtime.
A week later, they were sent back down to earth by the Pats. Tebow wouldn't start another game in his career.
To send the Rams into the postseason from 31 yards out. Snap back, ball down. Kick is up, on its way. The St. Louis Rams are headed to the playoffs.
Call it the last stand of the greatest show on turf. The 2004 Rams were a shell of their high-powered attack from previous seasons, but still found a way into the playoffs. Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt combined for over 2,600 receiving yards, while aging running back Marshall Faulk passed the torch to rookie Steven Jackson. The Rams even went into Seattle and beat their division rivals in the wild card.
Hasselbeck, room to run. Now he throws. Incomplete. Intended for Ingram.
But the following week is where their fatal flaw was on full display. The league's 29th ranked rush defense allowed 327 yards on the ground in a beatdown at the hands of the Falcons. If you count that divisional loss, the Rams were defeated by an average of 19 points per game in 2004. Defense wasn't the problem for Jim Mora's 1990 Saints. The Dome Patrol was in full effect, and New Orleans allowed the 8th fewest points in the NFL. Quarterback Bobby Hebert sat out the entire season because of a contract dispute, so the Saints turned to the duo of Steve Walsh and John Fourcade, who combined for 15 touchdowns to 21 picks. But they'd bounce back, scratching and clawing to an 8-8 mark. The Saints won 3 of their last 4, including a Week 17 nail-biter in the season's final game.
Direct snap to Walsh. Walsh is ready to throw, steps up in the pocket, hits Martin. It's going to be a first down. He's at the 30, he's at the 20, he's at the 15, he's out of bounds at the 11-yard line. And here comes Anderson's try to win the game for New Orleans. He spots the ball. Anderson kicks it. The Saints win! The Saints win! 20-17!
A fantastic finish followed by a dud the next week. New Orleans was shut down at Soldier Field, falling 16-6 in the wild card. The 99 Lions make the list, but it wasn't all bad, considering their legendary running back abruptly retired before the season.
The only man who's ever gained 1,000 yards 10 straight seasons will retire Wednesday, not with the press conference, but with a statement, and Barry will not be available for comments.
Detroit had serious issues trying to replace Barry's production. They ranked 28th in rushing offense in 1999. The O-line had a lot to do with that. While quarterbacks Charlie Batch and Gus Frerotte performed admirably, the Lions' signal callers were sacked an NFL-high 64 times. Still, they were 8-4 through 12 games. Then the wheels fell off. Detroit dropped their last 4 regular season games before a wild card no-show that saw them fall behind 27-zip in Washington.
Every Sunday it's the same thing. It starts out the same way. 45 guys, we got 60 minutes. Let's go play Browns football.
Solid run game, stingy defense. It was Marty Ball to a T. He led Cleveland to the first of 3 straight AFC Central titles. Kevin Mack and Ernest Biner each rushed for 1,000 yards, but man, oh man, did their passing game struggle.
And Danielson wobbles one out and it's intercepted by Lionel Washington, and he's going to score. No flags, touchdown St. Louis.
Rookie Bernie Kosar and journeyman Gary Danielson combined for the 25th ranked pass attack out of 28 teams. The Browns also lost the most fumbles in the league, but they found a way to win 4 of their last 6 to make the playoffs, and not just as a wild card. They went straight to the divisional round against the Dolphins and even jumped out to a 21-3 lead. Sadly, in a sign of things to come, Cleveland crumbled late as Miami scored the final 21 points. At 5-2, heading into a Week 9 clash with Chicago, it seemed like business as usual for Aaron Rodgers and the 2013 Packers.
Steps up, scrambles right, keeps it alive, and then is hit from behind by McClellan, and down he goes.
After Rodgers broke his collarbone, a slew of backups did all they could. Matt Flynn, Scott Tolzien, and Seneca Wallace kept the ship afloat barely. That Green Bay team also struggled mightily in the secondary, but when it came time to make a playoff push, they showed up.
Need about another 27 yards to give you a better than average shot. And it is intercepted. Here's the snap. Romo waits, guns it right side, nearly intercepted. It is! Tramar Williams again on a diving grab.
You couldn't write a script any better. Week 17, win and in. A returning Aaron Rodgers goes to Soldier Field to take on the team that cut his season short, Packers and Bears, for the NFC North.
Wentz, Rodgers gets out, floats it.
That was the last of the fun, though, as San Francisco knocked off the Pack the following week. One of the worst offenses to ever make the postseason, the 1989 Steelers averaged just 16 points per game. As a team, Pittsburgh passed for just over 2,000 yards and 10 total touchdowns, fewest in the league in both categories.
Brister fires it to Hodge off his fingertips, intercepted, picked off by David Grayson, and Grayson goes in for the TD.
The Steelers' 7 losses in 1989 came by an average of nearly 25 points per game. So how in the world did they get in? Well, they got hot late, winning 5 of their last 6. Chuck Noll's team allowed just 14 points per game in that span. Pittsburgh knocked off Houston in OT in the wild card before falling 1 point short in the divisional round.
Snap to Brister, it hits his feet, the ball is loose, picked up by Hodge, and a big pile-up. The Broncos recover the fumble.
A 5-2 start for the 2017 Bills had Buffalo fans thinking playoffs for the first time since 1999, but after a 37-point home loss in Week 10, first-year head coach Sean McDermott benched Tyrod Taylor in favor of rookie Nathan Peterman. Wrong move.
Peterman rolling and throwing off the hands of DeMarco and intercepted.
How long do you leave him in there? You made a bold decision to bring him in. What do you do now?
He's thrown 9 passes, 4 have been intercepted. And that's the 5th interception today thrown by Peterman.
Despite the embarrassing loss, Buffalo got it together. A heavy dose of LaShawn McCoy helped the Bills win 4 of their last 6, including a Week 17 matchup in Miami. Now, all they could do was watch the finish of a Ravens-Bengals game in hopes of a Cincinnati upset.
Great win, man. Trying to see what happened around the league now. We're trying to get in these playoffs. You know what I mean? We'll see what happens. Hey, get the game on the TV in here. Get the game on.
Dalton steps up. Dalton throws. It's complete. Caught by Boyd. Tyler Boyd. Touchdown.
The 18-year streak was over as the Bills were finally playoff bound. Peterman found his way back onto the field in the final seconds of the wild card game, where another interception ended Buffalo's campaign. We'd see our first ever 17-game season in 2021 with the Steelers finishing 9-7-1. The truth was that Pittsburgh was outclassed in many of their games. Mike Tomlin's defense finished dead last in rushing yards allowed. 8 of their 9 wins came by 1 score. But in a vintage Roethlisberger season, his last as a pro, he paced the league in both fourth-quarter comebacks and game-winning drives, including a clutch performance in the regular season finale against Baltimore.
With 2:28 to go, they're going to roll the dice in overtime. Ben gets the snap. He's back. He waits. He fires a pass. It's caught. First down at the 31. A 36-yard field goal attempt to win this game in overtime. The ball is down. The kick is on its way. That kick is good. And the Pittsburgh Steelers have defeated the Baltimore Ravens.
And maybe this isn't the last dance for Big Ben.
The Steelers found a way in as a wild card, and as a reward, they'd travel to Arrowhead where they were demolished by Patrick Mahomes and company. The '98 Cardinals personified an underdog with exactly one Pro Bowler on their roster. This team was written off after 2 huge losses to start the year. Inconsistent from one week to the next, Arizona found themselves at 6-7 with 3 games to go. Jake Plummer threw 20 interceptions and was sacked a league-high 49 times, but they wouldn't go away.
To win it for the Cardinals here in overtime. It's on the way. It is good, and the Cardinals win. It's on the way. It looks good. Good! They win! They are one step closer to the playoffs. And here it is, to try to win it and put the Cardinals in the playoffs. It is good! The Cardinals win! The Cardinals are in the playoffs!
Jake the Snake led 7 game-winning drives in '98. At Texas Stadium, the 24th-ranked scoring defense in the league held the Cowboys to just 7 points in a wild card stunner. It was the franchise's first postseason win since 1947. Their unbelievable year came to a close against the high-powered Vikings the following week. And that takes us to the curious case of the 1978 Falcons, the lowest scoring team in playoff history, excluding strike seasons. Atlanta averaged just 15 points per game, 3rd fewest in the NFL. Steve Bartkowski tossed 10 touchdowns to 18 interceptions. They generated the 2nd fewest rushing yards in the league and still found a way in.
3 wide receivers, they're all on the right side. Bartkowski with a snap, drops the throw. Clock is running now, down to 17, throws long. Everybody's down there. The Saints look like they're there. There's the ball in the air. Jackson catches it. Touchdown, Atlanta. Unbelievable. There are no penalty flags. The Atlanta Falcons have come from behind with 10 seconds to go in the ball game.
It helped that the league opened up an extra playoff spot in each conference in '78. The inaugural wild card game saw Atlanta produce a 14-point fourth-quarter comeback to knock off the Eagles. They'd go on to squander a second-half lead against Dallas in the divisional round. They beat 2 playoff teams in the 2016 regular season, and 8 of their 9 wins came by 1 score. Bill O'Brien's Houston Texans finished 9-7 for the 3rd straight year en route to the playoffs. The defense was stellar, 11th in points allowed, but 1st in yards given up.
Reaching the block at the left tackle. It is picked off on the play, grabbed by Jackson. It is his 13th career interception.
Texans signed Brock Osweiler to a 4-year, $72 million deal in the offseason, and he was clearly not the guy. Houston had the 4th fewest passing yards in the league, with Osweiler tossing just 15 touchdown passes in 14 starts. Still, they won a home playoff game against the Connor Cook-led Raiders before a rough outing in New England the next week.
In the middle and intercepted. It's Harmon this time. Interception number 3 of the second half.
We discussed the 1989 Steelers earlier. Now let's spotlight the '89 Oilers. Not a banner year for the AFC Central. Houston went 9-7, finishing with another top 10 scoring offense. When they won, it was typically close, but when they lost, Jerry Glanville's team was absolutely throttled.
Throws the football left, has a man, it's caught at the 40, 35, at the 30, coming to the near side is McGee at the 25, McGee at the 20, McGee at the 15, McGee at the 10, avoids the tackle at the 5, and goes into the end zone for a touchdown. Holy cow!
The Oilers' 7 losses in 1989 came by an average of 3 touchdowns per game. The 54-point beatdown in Cincinnati was the largest margin of defeat by any playoff team ever. Even with another loss in Week 16, Houston got in and would host a playoff game. They had Pittsburgh on the ropes in the wild card, but couldn't put them away.
Warren Moon has the football off White, tries to turn the corner on the left side, and the Steelers converge on him. The ball is loose. The Steelers pick up the football at the 48-yard line. Here's the kick. It's in the air. It's got the distance. It is good.
Did you know that NFC Central sent 4 teams to the playoffs in 1994? Even the Bears made it in with a minus 36-point differential. Chicago started 8-4 before a late season collapse that saw them lose 3 of their final 4 contests.
3rd down and 8 yards to go from the 22-yard line of Chicago. Favre retreats to the pocket, guns the right side, got his man open down the right sideline. Sterling Sharp cutting left to the 5 of the end zone for the touchdown.
They didn't have a single Pro Bowler on the team, nor a 1,000-yard rusher or receiver. QB duties were split between Steve Walsh and Eric Kramer, but Dave Wanstead's defense was the key. Chicago held opponents to fewer than 11 points per game in their 9 wins. The Bears pulled off a major wild card upset in Minnesota.
Back to throw. Moon steps and throws the right side. Got his man. He fumbles the football. It's scooped up by the Bears. Minifield down the sideline. Kevin Minifield to the 10 to the 5. Touchdown. And the Bears have clinched it.
Then they allowed 5 rushing touchdowns in a blowout loss to the eventual Super Bowl champs.
Young is going to run. Score easily.
Oh, and a cheap shot by Sean Gale.
And Young fires the ball at Sean Gale, and he is engulfed by 49ers.
The John Elway era in Denver started with a playoff campaign, but the rookie struggled mightily in his debut season.
Gun for left side. It's intercepted on the play by Lucius Smith down the right sideline to the 45-40. Cutting to his right. He's to the 30, 25-20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Kansas City.
Steve DeBerg kept the team alive, going 4-1 as a starter. Denver's defense was crucial to its success. The Broncos averaged nearly 3 takeaways per game and allowed the 9th fewest points in the league. Still, this was a team that lost 4 of their final 7 games before a wild card shellacking in Seattle.
Hops back, in some trouble, all the way back at the 20-yard line, still looking, still pursuing. The pass is thrown to the back of the end zone to Metzelars for a touchdown.
The Titans needed every second of the 2017 season to clinch their first playoff berth in 9 years.
Down the middle of the field, intercepted! Picked off by Byard, his second!
Tennessee was fine defensively, especially against the run. In fact, they allowed the fewest rushing scores all year. It was the other side of the ball that stagnated. Marcus Mariota took a step back, throwing 13 touchdowns to 15 picks. Tennessee lost 3 of their last 4 ahead of a wild card showdown at Arrowhead. Nobody saw this coming.
Now he's going to scramble for the end zone, pump faking, fires late, it's knocked down and caught by Mariota, and stretches for a touchdown.
What a play, Marcus Mariota, who just threw and caught a touchdown pass. Derrick Henry, over 100 to pay dirt, and oh my goodness, there is shock in KC. This is a stunning result.
Their first playoff win since 2003 stunned the football world, but like so many underdogs before them, the Titans were outmatched against the Patriots the following week. After a dropped Hail Mary from Super Bowl 30, the Colts looked to build on their magical 95 campaign. Jim Harbaugh was back, as was young star Marshall Faulk, not to mention a rookie wideout who'd end up in Canton.
He airs one out deep down the right side, intended for Marvin Harrison, touchdown!
Indy started the year 5-1, but fizzled out halfway through. They dropped 5 of their next 6, with the O-line breaking down. Harbaugh was sacked 28 times between weeks 3 and 10. Falk, meanwhile, averaged just 3 yards per carry on the season. The Colts ranked 28th out of 30 teams in rushing.
Falk again. Nothing doing.
But they'd regroup and win 3 straight to clinch a playoff spot. Unfortunately, they were no match for Pittsburgh in the wild card, as the Steelers gashed Indy for over 230 rushing yards, scoring the game's final 29 points. Same year, different conference, led by the QB duo of Warren Moon and Brad Johnson, the '96 Vikings had no problems torching opposing secondaries.
It's a 4-point Minnesota lead. It's 3rd and 12. Johnson to Carter, over the top into the end zone, touchdown!
After starting 4-0, Minnesota sputtered, losing 6 of their next 8. It was the ground game, or lack thereof, that doomed this team. Just 7 total rushing scores all year, but a late season rally got them into the dance, where they'd meet the defending champion Cowboys in the wild card.
It's intercepted by the Cowboys and George Teague at the 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown Dallas.
A 6-turnover disaster abruptly ended the Vikings season. But we're not done. 3 years earlier, Minnesota found a way in, despite just 5 wins heading into December. Thanks to the #1 total defense in the league, the Vikings gave up the fewest passing touchdowns all year. Helps when your front four amasses 40 sacks.
And Randall grabs a hold of Favre. Erickson again to throw on first down. And Dolman got him again.
But just like '96, the absence of a run game would prove costly. Minnesota's leading rusher, Scotty Graham, had just 488 yards on the season. The Giants outgained the Vikings by nearly 100 yards on the ground in a 17-10 wild card victory. Detroit's third playoff season in 6 years was a wild one. 8 of their 9 wins came by 1 score.
This is going to be about a 43-yarder. He got it! Matt Prater with 4 seconds to go, and the Lions are back on top.
Stafford throws, and it's complete to Golden Tate, who has a first down and then dives to the end zone for a Lions touchdown.
Matthews got it, back to pass, looking left, throwing. It is caught inside the 5, diving into the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
3rd and 7. They back off the blitz. Backwards throw is intercepted. It is picked up by Darius Slay. Prater to give the Lions the division lead and sweep the season series over the Vikings. 40, the kick is good, and the Lions take it here, 16-13.
The Lions allowed more points than they scored in 2016. They were great against the run, just 8 touchdowns given up, but awful in the secondary with the second most passing touchdowns allowed. Golden Tate and Marvin Jones filled in admirably for the retired Megatron, but Detroit's ground game was nowhere to be found. Theo Riddick led the team with just 357 rushing yards for the entire season. Seattle made easy work of them in the wild card round.
Dan looks, throws into the end zone. It is caught. It is a touchdown. All right! Touchdown, Miami.
Yes, sirree! Marino is jubilant. This crowd here in Indianapolis is in absolute shock.
Dan Marino's last hurrah, like we discussed with Brady and Big Ben, this all-time great had one final run in him. Jimmy Johnson and company actually started 7-1, even with their Hall of Fame QB going down with an injury. But the Finns would win just 2 of their final 8 games, with giveaways playing a major role. Miami was -11 in the turnover department over the last half of the year. They limped into the playoffs at 9-7 before stealing one in Seattle. Then came one of the ugliest career finales you'll ever see. The Dolphins turned it over 7 times in a 55-point loss to the Jags.
For a player of that stature to go out in a 62-7 defeat, that was the saddest sight I've ever seen in sports.
And speaking of Jacksonville, 3 years earlier, this upstart franchise was just in its 2nd year of existence, so it's a bit of a miracle they were in the playoffs in the first place. The Jags were middle of the pack defensively, but Mark Brunell led the NFL in passing, and the team as a whole finished 2nd in total offense. At one point, the Jags were sitting at 4-7, but they'd win out all 5 games by a combined 21 points. And then the real magic happened.
To give Jacksonville the lead. It hits the post and goes through.
Brunell on the fade. Touchdown to Jimmy Smith.
The underdog Jags shocked Jim Kelly's Bills and John Elway's Broncos, 2 AFC stalwarts, in back-to-back weeks. Sadly, their Cinderella run came to an end against New England in the AFC title game. How could a Super Bowl champion be on this list? Well, they're the only team with a negative point differential to hoist the Lombardi.
Finish is what Tom Coughlin said, and the Giants have finished off the Patriots.
The 2011 Giants did the unthinkable. For the 2nd time in 4 years, but they had to win the last game of the season to even make it into the tournament. Eli Manning set a career high with close to 5,000 passing yards. The defense was questionable at best. Tom Coughlin's team allowed 25 points per game in the regular season, but they tightened up in the playoffs, taking down Ryan, Rodgers, Smith, and Brady. The G-men gave up just 14 points per contest in those matchups.
Snap good, hold good, and Raiders in, Chargers out, Steelers in.
A chaotic finish to Week 18 of the 2021 campaign sent the Raiders into the postseason while the Chargers were left out. Las Vegas had luck on their side all year. They had the lowest point differential of any 10-win team in NFL history, but the Raiders found a way to win tight games, 7 one-score victories. On the flip side, their 7 losses came by an average of 17 points per game. Could they find a way to win a playoff game for the first time since 2002?
The season comes down to this. In his car end zone. Intercepted! And for the first time in 31 years, Cincinnati, your Bengals have won a playoff game.
The 2023 Steelers deserve a spot on this list. Pittsburgh ranked 28th in scoring offense as Kenny Pickett led the team with 6 touchdown passes. 3 Steeler QBs started multiple games, and none showed much of anything. Pittsburgh averaged 10 points per game in their 7 losses. Sitting at 500 entering Week 16, they had their work cut out for them.
Mason Rudolph in the gun. He empties the set. Pass over the middle is caught by Pickens. He's on his way. He's at the 40, the 50, the 35, the 40. Here comes George Pickens all the way for a Pittsburgh Steelers touchdown.
Rudolph looking sideline for Pickens again. He's got it. Dropped it in the bucket. Pickens punches back. Touchdown.
Like Tomlin had done time and again, the Steelers maximized their potential for another 10-win season. That would be the end of it, though, as Pittsburgh was knocked out by Buffalo in round 1. Rewind all the way back to 1986 for a 10-6 Jets team that was actually very close to making the AFC title game. New York had a top 10 passing attack led by Ken O'Brien and a pair of 1,000-yard receivers in Al Toon and Wesley Walker. The Jets jumped out to a red-hot 10-1 start. So, how'd they end up on this list?
Fake up the middle, Walker. It's a fumble, and the Rams have recovered in the end zone.
They gave the ball away 22 times over their last 6 games. New York dropped 5 straight to end the season, and those losses came by an average of 24 points per contest. Even with all of that, they rebounded with an emphatic wild card win over Kansas City. The Jets took Cleveland to the limit in the Marathon by the Lake before falling in double OT. The 93 Raiders were 6-5 heading into December. LA won 4 of its last 5 games by a combined 15 points. Much like that 2021 squad we just mentioned, the odds were in their favor. 9 of the Raiders' 10 wins that year came by 1 score, including a nail-biter in the final game of the season.
Hostetler knows he's only got 8 seconds left. He's got to hurry. He looks over to the left side, looks over to the right side, fires to the right side. He's got a man. Touchdown Raiders! It's Alexander Wright. They've tied it up on the final play in regulation.
From 40 yards, Jason Elam to win the game. No good! From 47 to put the Raiders in the playoffs.
Despite a one-dimensional offense, the Silver and Black passed their way to a pair of wins over Denver en route to the divisional round. LA gave Buffalo all it could handle before falling short in a 6-point loss. We'll keep it in the same era where the 1995 Eagles got into the postseason, overcoming perhaps the worst passing attack in the NFL.
Pass is picked off by Larry Brown, and he's gone.
Philly averaged 168 passing yards per game with 11 touchdowns and 19 interceptions. Good thing the Birds had a defense, second in the NFL against the pass. The two-headed monster of Ricky Watters and Charlie Garner also had a lot to do with their success. A 10-6 campaign saw Philly put up a whopping 58 points in the wild card before falling flat in Dallas a week later. Starting your season 1-4 is not a great recipe for playoff success.
It's caught by Baldwin. Touchdown.
The game is over and the Seahawks have found yet again a way to win.
Tannehill going for it all to the end zone. Parker, and it is intercepted. Duron Harmon picked it off.
But like so many other playoff teams on our list, Miami rebounded, finding themselves on the right side of these tight games. 8 of their 10 wins in 2016 came by 7 points or fewer. That masked one of the worst defenses in the league, 30th against the run and 30 passing scores allowed. Backup QB Matt Moore had to finish out the season for an injured Ryan Tannehill. In the wild card, Miami was outclassed at a frigid Heinz Field.
Over the middle, here comes Antonio Brown, loose again, 25, 15, 10, bye-bye, AB.
And that brings us to a special collection of 11-win teams. Let's start in 2020, where the Browns exercised their postseason demons in a wild card upset in Pittsburgh.
Second down and 10 here. Mayfield throws, Chubb makes the grab, gets some blocking, breaks tackles, and Chubb is going to go all the way to the end zone.
Cleveland was used to high-scoring matchups that season. They allowed the 9th most points of any playoff team ever. Baker was solid, and the 1-2 punch of Chubb and Hunt formed one of the league's top rushing attacks. That was enough to end a 26-year playoff win drought all Browns fans would like to forget about the following week.
Rashard Higgins fumbles at the 1-yard line, through the end zone and out of the end zone, a touchback.
Now the Chiefs have 4th down and less than a yard.
Finney rolling out, throws it, Hill! And the Chiefs are heading to the AFC Championship game.
Finally, we have the remarkable season from the 2012 Colts, Andrew Luck's debut campaign. Not to mention an emotional stretch when first-year head coach Chuck Pagano missed time due to his cancer treatment. The up-and-down season saw Indy win 9 one-score games.
There he is. And he got to the end zone on the stretch.
Luck throws it back to Ballard. Ballard leaps for the end zone. Touchdown.
Here we go. Final seconds. Luck steps. Luck, a little flip. Donnie Avery, he's in. Touchdown. Indianapolis has done it.
Those exhilarating finishes overshadowed the huge losses. In their 5 defeats, the Colts were outscored by an average of nearly 20 points per game. But wins are wins, and the rookie put the team on his back. Luck had 7 game-winning drives in 2012 before the eventual Super Bowl champs put them away in the first round.